Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Chayam Vishnupad Padamhansa Pariprajapacharya Ashtottara AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Here we go. Well, I think I should turn off my effulgence first of all. Okay, that did that.
We all thought it was
welcome to all, especially to Meena Mataji and to Braj Bihari Prabhu. And welcome to all the devotees. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadati Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Hari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kolpatarupyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Well, again, welcome back. My hearing this week has been largely in Jadumna Maharaj and Gurujan Prabhu's Govardhan retreats and Hari Parshad Prabhu, all wonderful speakers and wonderful topics. And I wonder what's on your mind this evening.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I hope you don't mind if I start things off just to get things rolling. I'm glad that you prefaced tonight with talking about what you've been hearing lately, because there's an old saying that when you see someone do something impressive, you like to know what they have for breakfast. And since we're all at remote locations, but we're all sort of hanging
Very
on.
quiet out there.
Hanging on your. Can you hear me?
I don't think he can. He said it's very quiet.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's a great question so far.
There.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Maybe we should send him a chat.
Focus.
Yes.
This week has been on trying to chant my rounds better. No, I can't hear you. Oh, I see why. Okay, now we're good.
We've been talking all this time, Marge.
I see.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kendra.
Well, I'm sure you were talking better without me.
No.
No, I was just saying I was grateful that you prefaced your tonight with talking about what you've been hearing, because all of us, your faithful listeners out here, there's an old saying that when you see someone do something very impressive, I wonder what he had for breakfast. And, you know, in olden times, students would live with their teacher and they'd see exactly what he does at every hour of the day. And it's a faith builder for them to see how he purports himself, how he conducts himself, especially in terms of sadhana bhakti. And personally, I've always been curious, because everybody's at a diaspora now, so we don't get to see what each other do. But I would love to know what you know, besides the hearing that you've mentioned, what are some of the items that you carry on a daily basis. I know you're worshiping deities, and just to have a little glimpse and what your practice is like.
Well, the main thing I'm trying to do is chant 16 somewhat decent rounds in the morning. That's so important to try to avoid 10 offense. It's probably, but what instructions do we get? Chant 16 rounds and try to avoid 10 offenses and follow 4 regulative principles. So that chanting is so crucial. And our tendency to, at least my tendency to allow my mind to wander to myriad topics, whether they're devotional, non-devotional, evil, or just, what's the word, pedestrian, is formidable. And that habit becomes well established, and it requires a lot of effort to chant with determination, chant with dedication, chant with attention. And that's therefore, and that's our life. What is my relationship with Krishna? And Krishna means the holy name of Krishna. So I'm trying to invest in that, in chanting with better quality. And sometimes I feel like I'm making a little progress, and then other times I feel like I'm not. But at least the project is getting attention. The project of paying attention, at least, is getting attention. So it's yeah. So that's for me is the most important thing that I'm doing, and my experience is that sitting down and doing them all, with nothing else to do, nothing else that I have to do, nothing else that I need to do, nothing else that I have to give attention to. That's so important. And I can chant something later in the day, but those 16 rounds in the morning is crucial. Then Prabeen has written, okay. Prabeen's written a question to me from Lilamrita. Well, then I take a little something when my chanting is done and my puja is done. Then I take a little breakfast. Then I do some work, whether it's project work or typically a lot of email and messages to answer and all of that kind of stuff. If I get up early enough, then I can do some extra reading and maybe some project attention early. That's real good. I take a little oil massage and just self-massage in midday. And that's when I listen to Indra March, or start listening to Indra March typically. And then lunch, then the hardest part of the day, the afternoon, where I take, in no particular order, I usually try to take a little rest and walk and chant for at least half an hour. And then it's time for the evening. Either our evening class or else, again, opportunity for a little work or a little reading. And that's pretty much the story. I try to take rest by 9. If I can do it earlier, it's great. If it's later, it's not great. On the nights that I give class till 9, it winds up being a little later, but I try to cut it as close to 9 as I can. That's the story. I wish it were a better story. I'm sure it could be improved, but that's the basics. And I'm reminded of a comment by Mahatma Prabhu that till 9 in the morning, we're all pure devotees. This is from Lilamrita Prabhin says, moving their chairs with them, they went with Prabhupada and sat by the window. By the year 2000, no one will see the light of day, Prabhupada said. Cities will be forced to live underground. They will have artificial light and food, but no sunlight. How to see such prophetic words of Prabhupada, which don't seem to have been fulfilled? Well, give it time. The year 2000 may not be the exact date, but these things are going on. The Kali Yuga is going down and down. There's already so much in the way of artificial living. We're not forced to live underground, but we're forced to live inside so much now. Artificial light and food. Well, the food is mostly already artificial, so much. So it doesn't have to be year 2000, but these days are coming. I guess that's my short answer. Tulsi Priya has a question.
Maharaj, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, obeisances. My question has to do with chanting, and it's this is a sort of doubt that flutters into my mind every once in a while, and that's we're supposed to be chanting with attention. And my question is, okay, so you're paying attention, but then there's, or at least trying to pay attention, but then there's a part of the mind, at least my mind, that says, I'm just repeating the same words over again. And I'm supposed to be having a relationship with Krishna, but what sort of relationship is it when you have a when you're just repeating somebody's name and you're not experiencing anything more variegated or different? It's just the sound of it. And I guess I'm wondering, how do you, it's a kind of despair, I guess. I'm not trying to make it into something huge and dramatic, but the idea that you're repeating the name and you could be paying attention, but something is missing from your experience, and you're not having the realization. And how do you work through that?
Yeah, it's called, what should we say? It's symptomatic of our neophyte condition. If we had love while we were chanting, what would the chanting, what was it like for Raghunath Das Goswami to be chanting the holy name? What was it like for Haridas Thakur? What was it like, for Srila Prabhupada to be chanting the holy name? For us, it's like 14, 2 left to go. It's like a chore. But to the extent that but sometimes we get glimpses. We feel, yes, I've got feeling a little enthusiasm, a little devotion, a little happiness. And I've lost my train of thought. But this is establishing our relationship. Prabhupada gives the example that a girl is married at a very young age, and typically in traditional Indian life, and she doesn't really know anything about being a wife, but she's still staying at home, and maybe she's 8 or 10, but she knows, I have my husband. And the mother says, all right, now cook this for your husband. All right, now do that for your husband. And there's not really love there, but there's, on the instruction of the mother, she's doing this, she's doing that. But then when they live together, and by this practice, they become so attached to one another that they'll never separate. So in the beginning, it's the probational stage, or the what would you say? Well, the very immature stage. But by sticking with that, then we get some reciprocation. This chanting is nice. I look forward to chanting at least that much. I'm looking forward to chanting. that that something is there. And the more we make the endeavor, the more Krishna will reciprocate, so that it becomes a little tasty, a little encouraging, a little inspiring, a little, what should we say? At least, yeah, perspective. So that's Rupa Goswami's instruction, to continue and not be discouraged. Nishchayat, to have that confidence that yes, because I'm following the right process, I'm sure the result will be there. And then on the other side, to recognize that if the result's not there, well, it must mean that I'm still committing 10 offenses. Prabhupada gave that translation of do or die of Amidra Hajani Nanaraga. Unfortunately, I commit 10 kinds of offenses while chanting, and therefore I have no taste. The other thing is that by our attention to chanting, our enthusiasm on other sides will increase. Our enthusiasm for the other methods of devotional service, for our other practices. And by our enthusiasm in the other things, our chanting becomes enlivened, becomes energized. If we're enthusiastic about, say, simple things like hearing Krishna book or taking part in the kirtan, then that becomes the background of our japa, so that even if our mind wanders, it starts to wander to Krishna book, it starts to wander to kirtan. That's a lot better than wandering to the evening news or somebody's Facebook post, or whatever it might be. Is that okay?
Thank you very much. Quick follow-up. I was just wondering, my brain, I'm drawing a blank right now. Are there any descriptions anywhere of devotees' experiences while, I can think of Satsvarup Maharaj, he describes his experiences while chanting, but specifically one's mental state while chanting, because you hear, the result of chanting is bliss and this, that, and the other thing, but most of us don't experience that, or many of us don't anyways. So I'm just wondering, that the actual process of chanting, if that's been written about, in detail, other than, the results of chanting or, the goal of chanting or anything like that.
I'm thinking. I haven't read much Ruja Kadambini, but I think there's extended discussion about, perhaps in a more generalized way, I don't know if it's particularly focused on japa, but the various obstacles and distractions and so on that one may face. Does somebody have a source, acharyas who've written specifically about chanting? Yes.
Well, doesn't Rupa Goswami say how, I wish to have millions of tongues and ears and all my senses become inert through the chanting? And one thing is, although we may not experience it, we hear from those who have experienced, what you could say like a coming attraction someday or some lifetime, what they are experiencing, and how much like just a volcano of loving feelings within the heart where they never want to stop. We hear of it, and like you said, Maharaj, that we do have, like, we may have gotten some glimpses of a taste for that, but there's that promise by all of our acharyas, what that everything's there. It's not just these three names, but there's the nama, the guna, rupa, lila, everything's contained in that name. So just a matter of it being revealed, not that we can demand it, but to wait for it to the name to reveal himself. Would you say that's
Yeah, I was thinking either yesterday or today that
off the light?
we hear that we need to have the mentality of being the object rather than the subject, which means that we're not trying to enjoy Krishna, but to be enjoyed by Krishna. Or as Prabhupada put it, not try to see Krishna, but try to act in such a way that Krishna will see us, or from that point of view, not try to hear Krishna exactly, but to try to chant in such a way that Krishna will see, yes, this person is chanting nicely. Because when Krishna is pleased, then he reveals himself. Swayameva Spuratyadaha. So yeah, confirming what you've said. Also, without having in mind a particular guidebook from the previous acharyas, but Satsvarup Maharaj has written extensively and very valuably about the project of chanting japa. Likewise, Sachinandan Maharaj has also written very deeply about these topics. Mahatma Prabhu has also contributed to, shall we say, the literature, the Vaishnava literature of japa. So these are three sources that we can go to and take advantage of. I don't know if anyone has other sources that you can think of, but those three I think we'll find valuable.
Burijan Prabhu as
Burijan Prabhu, yes.
Speaking of Burijan Prabhu Maharaj, I just remembered when you had mentioned Maharaj's Govardhan retreat. We were there about 10 years ago, and we had one day of chanting 64 rounds. And I remember by the end of the day, everyone, including myself, was basically on a high. And I don't think we had any kind of extraordinary realizations, but it was I'm going to use the wrong word here, but it was great fun. It was really a wonderful experience to do that. And I don't know why I don't do it more often, but.
So enlivening and invigorating just to chant and have nothing else to do but chant, and to chant a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a similar experience with in fact, Brajabihari Prabhu arranged for a japa retreat for the BBT trustees some years ago.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
And it was
I
wonderful.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Well, I haven't forgotten about it. It was so valuable. It was really a wonderful retreat. I think it's the best thing the BBT trustees ever did.
Thank you.
So yes, thank you.
And thank you to Kamalini Prabhu.
That's Brajabihari, this 1619, is that him?
Brajabihari is Brajabihari.
But I don't, oh, with
This is
the
me.
V. Okay, I never saw with V. I always thought it was B.
Yeah, I got all
Brajabihari.
Sanskrit,
Oh, okay, good,
I gave up my Bengali background.
okay. Great. Okay, can we ask other questions now?
As you like, Maji.
All right, how about the 10 topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam?
Yes.
And so are those 10 topics like interspersed throughout the Bhagavatam? Or would you say like first canto is creation, second canto is something else? Or are they like all mixed in?
Well, I'll say two things. One is that Srila Prabhupada assigned the canto names according to these 10 topics. So the first canto, creation, and second one, cosmic manifestation, and so on. But Srila Jiva Goswami says that these 10 topics are interspersed, that they're not assigned canto by canto. So that's what I know, that much.
Okay. And okay, I have a question that I had for many years. That you know how, like in various pastimes, there is a huge, I mean, we're talking about millions of years gap. Like when we say, I guess first it was Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, that's their first birth. Then their second birth is Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And then in Krishna Lila, and that there's like millions of years between them. So what did they do while they're waiting for that next significant birth? Were they in limbo or were they in many other bodies?
I hadn't thought about it. I wouldn't think other bodies because it was told that you'll have, what was it, 3 births as demons?
Yeah.
So that would seem to leave out the idea of more bodies. I hadn't thought about that there's gaps, large gaps between. I don't have an answer on that.
Yeah, and even like, you know, Gora Lila, everybody appears in Krishna Lila. So that's 5,000 years gap. So where were they all? I mean, of course, some are liberated souls and most are. Would they go
They're
back
all
to
liberated
the,
souls.
what?
They're all liberated souls.
Even the demon, but not the non-devotees, right? Because
No,
they're
No, what is that?
even the what? What did you say? Oh, you're thinking.
Narottam Das Thakur says, Nitya Siddha Korimani, that all of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are eternally liberated souls. Anyways, maybe Praveen will see it. Nitya Siddha Korimani. Which reminds me, I should. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been letting my chat box disappear.
Mars, on that, I was listening. I mean, not that it exactly addresses what Kamalini Mansaji is saying, but I attended a class recently by Radhika Raman Prabhu about the Bhagavatam, and he started by talking about the difference in how the Abrahamic religions see time and the way the Vedic tradition sees it. You know, and he was talking about how in Christianity there's kind of I'm looking at my notes, so you know, there's a sense of progress and advancement and complexity as time goes on, the march of a civilization leading to an end time. There's a beginning, there's an end. God makes his will known through history. It's directional, it has purpose. But ours is much more cyclical. And he said it's spiral rather than cyclical, he said. And we just look at time as divine, and history is not going anywhere, he says, not purposeful, it's moving in circles. God dips into history, but the overall cycle continues. So he said we just look at it in a very different way. I don't know if that exactly addresses what she's saying, but it's just a very different mindset. Because he was also talking from a scholarly point, from a scholar's point of view, that we're not, like he was saying, you know how some devotees get all excited if you know, an aerial view shows that there was a bridge to Lanka or there was something. He said we shouldn't get so excited about those things, because that's not how we archaeology is very much based on the kind of more Abrahamic way of looking at time. And, you know, ours is different than that. And so it's actually kind of weak. It may help some devotees in their faith, but it's not probably the best way to instill faith in devotees. But, oh yes, there was a bridge, you can see it still.
Yeah, because then when evidence goes against you, then you lose your faith. Right. You know, the nature of empiric evidence is that sometimes it favors your spiritual perspective, and sometimes it goes against it. So if we rely on empiric verification, we may sometimes get encouragement and sometimes discouragement.
Mm.
So the history of the Christians really got in trouble that way. They were the original, what would you say? There's a word for it, but people who were doing sort of critical studies of historical critical studies of Christianity initially had in mind that they'd be verifying the faith, and they wound up tearing it apart.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we don't depend on those things. Yeah, thank you. There were several things that went by in the chat box, which for some reason I had closed, and let's see if I'm missing important things. Everything's important, but let's see. Regarding the question from the Lamrita, Sankarshan says, Rabindra Swarup Prabhu made a comment about a prediction Prabhupada made which didn't come to pass. He told the story of how a war that didn't happen involving Russia was possibly abated because the devotees who worked in a fruit field in Russia. The devotees offered the whole load of fruits which were headed for Russian leaders to consume. The leaders may have been purified by Krishna Prasadam. The conclusion was that Krishna could change his mind about something, which was likely to occur. As a footnote, usually only highly placed Russians could get such fruit, which the devotees had picked. And Tina says, I heard World War III was supposed to happen, but Krishna changed his mind. If we did indeed experience World War III, which would consist of nuclear weapons, we would surely be living underground. Yeah, history and predictions and so on. I don't think Srila Prabhupada gave a lot of importance to comments about his own comments about this will happen or that will happen, in a particular time. They're sort of shastrically informed perspectives, but not, like the Delphi Oracle speaking that, or astrological prediction on the 3rd of September, such and such will happen. Then if it doesn't happen, you switch astrologers.
It seems that, of course, if devotees are involved, that's one thing, or people of faith, whether it's ISKCON or, some other devotees of God. But otherwise, Krishna doesn't exactly change his mind, because he says so clearly in the 9th chapter of the Gita that he's not really, don't blame him for stuff that goes on in the material world.
Yeah, the material world is going on in its own way, and as you said, it's cyclical, and it's just like if I were to say, well, expect snow in February in New York. Well, it's possible that there could be a February where it would just be freezing, but there would be no snow. That would be unusual, but these things happen. There's hardly any snow. You say, well, Jayadvaita Swami didn't know what he was talking about. But it's a general, the way the world goes, that generally you can figure there'll be snow in February in New York, something like that.
Ravindra Swarup Prabhu likes to say sometimes that the future is objectively fuzzy.
Beautiful, thank you. Objectively fuzzy. Can you let me know, Suman says, how to understand the personal form of the holy name? Yeah, by service to the holy name. Sevan mukehis jivado swayameva spuratyadaha. Pata Sri Krishna namari nabhave grayamindriya. We can't understand the personal form of the holy name by mental speculation or by any other method. gross sense perception, but we can serve the holy name. And when he's pleased, he'll reveal himself. Again, it's this approach of not being master of the holy name, but of being servant of the holy name. And that's our business. Amitomar Nityadas. We're servants of Krishna. And when he likes, he'll reveal himself. Did Srila Prabhupada come up with those titles for the Bhagavatam cantos himself? Or did any previous acharyas use titles in commentary? As far as I know, Prabhupada took the titles from those 2 verses in Bhagavatam in 2nd canto. Atra, Sarva, Visargascha, and so on. He picked it up from there. That's as much as I know. And Prabhupada is given that verse I was looking for. Gorangera Shange Gane Nityashita Bolimani. Or Shuman Nityasita Korimani. Either way. I remember Prabhupada usually said Korimani. Gorangera Duti Pada Jaratana Sampada. Yeah. Gorangera Shange Gane Nityasita Korimani. Se Jai Brajendra Shutapash. Yes. Thank you for that. So Nam Prabhu is a personality. Yes, Krishna. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. It means Abhinatan Nama Namino. That holy name it's not something different from Krishna or something separate from Krishna. The holy name is Krishna. And by realization of the holy name, we'll realize form, qualities, pastimes, everything. We give most attention to hearing the holy name of Krishna. And by hearing the holy name and chanting the holy name, we'll realize everything else about Krishna, his qualities, his pastimes, his everything. Of course, we hear Krishna's pastimes, we see the forms of Krishna in the temple or in paintings, but it's our chanting of the holy name that is so important for realization of everything. So, yes. Nam Seva is service to the holy name. And service is not just hearing, but if I'm preaching, that's service to the holy name. If I'm distributing books, that's service to the holy name. If I'm, even any Krishna seva is also service to the holy name, because the holy name and the Lord are the same. Even I think in the Hebrew traditions, those who don't pronounce the name of the Lord refer to him as Hashem, which means the name. So and hallowed be his name and so on. So there's a sort of, even elsewhere, there's an acknowledgement that the Lord and his name are one. The forms of chanting like manasik in the mind, vachik, silent, and loud chanting, how are they different? I don't have much to say about that. You're speaking from a discussion that I haven't read. I don't know if it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur or someone else has spoken about these 3 ways of chanting. I just haven't read the description. I openly confess. So I don't have much to say about it, except that Srila Prabhupada recommended for us chanting so that we can hear. Chanting within the mind requires great concentration. Silent chanting, again, requires more concentration. So Prabhupada or greater power of concentration, let's say that. So Prabhupada recommended that we chant and say it and in such a way that we can hear ourselves chant. The Shuman says Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur speaks of these, about this, which I guess means about these three forms of chanting. There's and Prabhin says for devotees, Krishna changes his mind. Yeah, Krishna can change. What is that? Swarat. He can change his mind whenever he likes. That's Krishna. That's Krishna. Tulsi Priya has a hand up, and Kamalini also.
Maharaj, I was just remembering with regard to predicting the future, there is a humorous story that Prabhupada tells about a man who was sitting on the branch of a tree and he was sawing away at the branch between himself and the trunk of the tree. And someone was passing by and says, if you keep up like that, you're going to fall. And the man says, mind your own business, go away. I know what I'm doing. And then sure enough, he fell. And when that happened, he said to the other man who tried to warn him, oh, you must be an astrologer. You can predict the future.
Yes.
So it's not that hard if you have some sense to predict the future.
Yes. Kamalini. You're muted, I think, Mataji.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. In the second canto, chapter 2, text 34, it says that Lord Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, studied the Vedas 3 times. So it's explained in the purport that that's what scholars do. Scholars study the Vedas 3 times, and he wanted to satisfy the inquisitiveness of all prospective students of the Vedas. And with great attention, he studied. So it does say that he heard directly from the personality of Godhead, the Vedas. So I'm wondering how he studied them the other 2 times. Did Krishna again speak to him the Vedas, or where did he study? Like, because we hear that there weren't books, everything was orally transmitted.
But they could remember.
Yeah, they could remember. So did he hear from somebody else, or I don't
I
know.
haven't seen anything about that. I would assume that he reviewed the material, you know.
Yeah. And it said to satisfy the inquisitiveness of scholars.
Yes.
He's a scholar. So I guess it kind of proves that he's a scholar, so they'll take him seriously, I guess.
Yes, certainly.
There's a whole world of scholarly protocol, I guess.
Yeah. For a while, I was attending the annual conference of the American Academy of Religion, and even the greatest scholars there only had one head.
Right.
Okay, Gatina asks, does Krishna have unlimited names? Assuming he has unlimited incarnations, also manifesting himself in many universes? Or is there listed somewhere in Shastra the number of names Krishna has? Nam Nam Kori Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti. Srila Prabhupada translates that as you have an unlimited number of names. The Vishnu Sahasranam is there, a listing of 1,000 names of Vishnu, but that's not the end. One name of Krishna is Ananta. Ananta means unlimited. So there's no limit to his forms, his names, his qualities, everything unlimited. And each name has unlimited potency. So Krishna has unlimited names. In Islam, there's a certain number of names also, and there's, I think, one name that's not known. Islamic scholar, is Musa on the call? Maybe he knows more about that. He was here. I thought I saw him. In any case, Yeah, 99 names of Allah, Tulsi Priya says. Yes, come on.
Also in Shikshastakam, it says that you have hundreds and millions of names.
Yeah,
If the names, there's a name according to an activity or a pastime. So Krishna is continuously engaging in pastime, so he'll be getting new names too, it seems, Makanchor, like a name of an activity like stealing butter, or Chittahari, stealing the hearts of the gopis. And
yeah.
so,
He
yeah,
became known as Giridhari after he lifted the Govardhan hill.
right, and Damodar.
Yeah, yeah. He receives these eternal names. They're his, but they manifest themselves. Yeah, Tina says, I think I heard my Jewish friends say that God has 100 names, so many per their shastras. So the idea is there that more names than we really can grasp, and each name has more potency than we can understand. Let's see, then backing up. Prabhin says, since the devotees are living in the world along with the karmis, would the fate of the karmis be influenced by the presence of the devotees? Hence changing Krishna's mind. Yes, devotees' presence can change things for the karmis also. Presence of the devotees can improve the fate of the world, sure. Tulsi Priya, I would assume if you know something, you can review it mentally. Yeah, that's the way people recite poetry to themselves to refresh their memory. Could that count as study? Yeah, that's for Lord Brahma. Okay, yeah. The Nam Kari Vahoda Nija Sarva Shakti. The Lord is unlimited, so his names are unlimited. His form, each of his limbs can do everything. And unlimited potency in every inch of Krishna, every aspect of Krishna, every limb of Krishna. His eyes can create the whole cosmic manifestation. Saakshata just glances, and the whole cosmic manifestation is set in action. So Krishna is unlimited. How to overcome the 10th offense in chanting, inattention. The instruction is there, I think it's Jiva Goswami, that if we commit offenses in chanting, then we should just go on chanting constantly and try to avoid these offenses. It's not that if we're chanting offensively, we should give up, but we know that we're chanting with offenses, and therefore Prabhupada gave that translation that unfortunately I commit 10 kinds of offenses while chanting, and then therefore I have no taste. But we know that this is going on, but we continue chanting, and there's that item, Ashabandha, great hope, that despite our experience that we go on chanting with offenses, we can continue with great hope that yes, if I continue this process seriously, I'll make progress. Yeah, 10th offense is the mother of all the others. All the other offenses are said to spring from this one offense of inattentive chanting. What's how to overcome inattentive chanting? By attentive chanting. So of course, it's helpful to know that there are small things that we can do to begin with. First of all, turn off your damn laptop and your damn phone and all the gadgets. Where's the question of attentive chanting if we're if one hand is on the keyboard or if our eyes are always glancing at the screen? So that will help us, and that we can do. I don't have to be a Paramhansa to turn off my laptop. Just prescribe the use of all electronic devices in the time set aside for japa, and have confidence that after 2 hours or so, your email or your WhatsApp messages or whatever it is will still be there to attend to. In the days before the internet, life went on. So that's one very practical thing. Just turn the thing off, preferably off as in off, or else closed as in closed, and keep it off, keep it closed. That's very practical, very simple. Have a regular time for chanting, a regular routine. At such and such time, that's my chanting time. As we have a time for breakfast, and the Vaidyas say that by having a regulated time for breakfast, regular time for sleep, and so on, we build up our strength. So have a regular time for chanting, have a regular place for chanting, have distractions set aside. In my project at the moment for trying to improve my chanting, I'm sitting in front of my desk where my pictures are there, Krishna Balaram's there, even if they haven't been woken up yet. And it's very important for me to have nothing else on my desk. If I have notes about things to do, if I have, anything else sitting there, it's a potential competitor for my attention. So I find it very important. Just have those things out of my line of sight, have them elsewhere, reinforcing the understanding that I have nothing else to do during this time but to chant and hear. So have a place that's dedicated. If you have a place, if you have a temple room, or you have at least a consistent place. I know there was one writer, I forget who it was. His writing involved sitting down in a particular chair at a particular desk at a particular time. And when he would do that, he would practically be absorbed in trance. It's like, okay, now I'm sitting down and writing. And sitting in that chair in that place helped him do that. So if you have a regular time, a regular place, a regular program, with whatever helps you, you have a picture of Krishna there, or you have a picture of your spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada there, then that will be helpful. If you take rest on time so that you're not struggling with staying awake, that will help you. What yukta hara viharascha, yukta swapna vibodhasya. Don't oversleep and don't undersleep, because if you're just trying to keep your head on your shoulders, how can you be attentive? So a regular program of, and then good japa today starts with taking rest in a good frame of mind last night. So if I go to bed thinking tomorrow I'll get up at such and such time and I'll chant, and it's something for you to look forward to. And ideally at the end of the day, you've spent your time hearing about Krishna, or reading about Krishna, rather than something only remotely related to Krishna. Then that focus will be helpful. The focus from the night before carries over to the next day. And tomorrow I'll get up and I'll chant. Have that, what sort of sankalpa, that determination from the night before, that tomorrow I can look forward to chanting. So these are small things, because it's easy to say, well, just avoid it, avoid inattention, just be attentive. But a lot of what we do involves small things. The small things contribute to the big thing. And the small things you can do. You can turn off your device. You can get enough rest, you can do a lot of these other things that we've been talking about. Some people have other things, some offer particular prayers before they begin chanting. You may find it helpful to just take stock of what you're doing before you start chanting. Okay, now I'm going to chant, and this is my program, and remind yourself of that, and then offer some prayers, or in that way sort of steady your mind for the work ahead, for the experience ahead. So these are some thoughts. And hear from those who are in a similar project. We've talked about that. Yes, Kamalini.
Thank you so much for that great advice. And one thing, like you said about, regulated time and atmosphere, there's one famous author that was interviewed, and he was asked, do you write like at regulated times or just when you're inspired? And he said, I write when I'm inspired, and that happens to occur every morning at 9 o'clock when I sit at my desk. So like that, if we're waiting to feel, inspired to chant, it may not come. So if we know, well, this is the time, like you said, this is the time, and then by that practice, it will come. Just
Yes.
every day.
Thank you. Yeah, there are other stories of authors who testify in a similar way. So yes, thank you very much for that. Okay. In the interests of a very important topic, and thank you for bringing that up. Suman, right, who raised that question. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Suman. In the interests of regulated schedule, we've reached 8:02. So I think we can stop here. And thank you all again for your association and your contributions. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.